Double-lane cutlery machine. Display screen function description. The black button on the screen is the main switch. You need to wait a moment to turn it on. The red one is the emergency stop button. When the emergency stop button is in the state, other buttons are invalid. Just pull out the emergency stop button to cancel it. You can press if there is an emergency. There is also one here and one opposite. A total of 3 emergency stop buttons for one machine. Green is the run button. Below is the machine stop button. And yellow is the jog button. There are also jog buttons on both sides of the collection cage. One is move forward and another is move backward, making it easier to operate the machine when changing molds or repairing the collection cage. There are also jog and run buttons here. There is also an external button handle, which is convenient for debugging the machine and has the same functions. Introduction to electrical eye. This is the feeding electrical eye. One for each station, used to sense whether there is paper in place. The electrical eye in front of the roller for detecting paper, one on each side. The positions of the 4 electrical eyes will change according to the position of the paper. These are adjustable. Introduction of display interface. First page, the running screen. If your machine has a safety door, this is the safety door switch. Please close the safety door for protection when the machine is running. The second one is the gluing roller. Click the button and the roller will rotate to supply glue. This is the feeding servo switch. One on each side, which controls the feeding servo of the 2 stations, respectively. Click button 1 on the left, and station 1 will stop rotating. The following is a record of the output of 2 stations. It cannot be set. If you need to clear it, please press and hold. Click on the number to set the machine's operating speed. Or turn the knob to accelerate and decelerate. Second page, I/O monitoring. This page only plays a monitoring role and cannot be set. It can be used to detect whether the device is working. The third page, parameter screen. The first is the feed servo fast ratio and the feed servo slow ratio, both of which control one station at the same time. Fast and slow speeds are set together according to the feeding sensor. Parameter screen 2 has feeding sensor. We set a distance on the paper to indicate that this section is fast, and the remaining parts are all slow. For example, the length of this paper is 500. The feeding sensor speed ratio set is that the distance between 100 and 300 of the paper is the fast part, and the rest, 0 to 100 and 300 to 500, are the slow part. Demonstration. When the paper runs to the position where the electrical eye light up, it will stop running. When the support servo position on the page reaches the set paper ejection angle, paper feeding will continue. For a more obvious display, we set the gap between the fast ratio and the slow ratio to be larger. It can be clearly seen that the front part is fast and the rear part is slow. Of course, not all papers have this parameter. This needs to be changed according to the size of the paper. The same applies to the second row. The fast ratio and slow ratio of the 2 rows control 2 stations respectively. There is no need to set the adjustment rate, and there is no need to change the parameters of duplex 3.0 after they are determined. This is the lower box servo speed ratio, where the lower box servo is located. The speed of this adjustment is to allow large-size paper to fall quickly and match the mold. because large size paper feeding speed is slow, and if the falling speed is slow, it will collide with the mold and fail to form. When you are unable to determine the value, you can adjust it slowly and try a few more values to determine the value that is suitable for your paper. Click to clear the inserted tag count to restart counting. The value of the insertion mark dot setting indicates how many boxes will make a mark. For example, I want a group of 10 boxes or a group of 100 boxes. It means that 100 boxes will be marked once after they are formed. Demonstration. Set up a piece of paper and run it. When the electrical eye before rolling glue shines on the paper, after the paper is formed, the dotting gun will run. The location of the oil pump unit is here. This oil pump supplies oil to the guide rails where the mold runs. Setting the oil pump working time to 10 seconds means that the oil pump works once to supply oil for 10 seconds. If there is too much oil leakage, the oil pump working time can be reduced. If the mold guide rail is running hard, the oil pump working time can be increased. The following is the interval between oil pump operations. Setting 120 minutes means that the oil pump operates once every 2 hours. These two means that the oil pump works for 10 seconds every 2 hours. Lubricate the guide rails of this mold. Click on the parameter screen above. There is a hidden page. No settings are required for the right row. The left first button is jog speed setting of the whole machine. Indicates the speed when the jog button is pressed. When debugging the machine, the low speed can be set so that the machine runs slowly when the jog button is pressed, which is convenient for debugging. The last one is the distance of the workstation, which means the distance from feeding position to glue position is 500 millimeters. The third is the opening and closing of the glue roller. Setting 1 means that if the electrical eye do not detect the paper, the glue roller will lift up to prevent glue from sticking to the machine. The second is the acceleration and deceleration of the whole machine. Setting the value to means accelerating by 2 or decelerating by 2 when turning the knob. Parameter screen 2. The first dot delay is when the electrical eye before rolling the glue hits the paper, and the dot gun will start working. The dotting delay setting is 3050. When the value of the support chain position below reaches between 30 and 50, the dotting gun is in working status. When the value of the support chain position exceeds 50, the dotting gun returns to the initial state, means that the dot counting is completed. Why do we need to set a delay of 30 to 50? Because it is necessary to avoid dotting while the box is moving forward, or it will damage the box. Therefore, after a box is formed and the mold is retracted backwards, the dotting gun starts working again. We can put the mold in the recycling state by pressing the jog button, and set the dotting delay range by referring to the value of the supporting chain position on the screen. The chain of deviation value setting is to adjust the matching degree between the mold and the lower paper. The paper is falling and the mold is recovering backwards, so the two don't collide. Now change it to 200 for demonstration. After setting this value, you must let the machine complete a circle before updating the new value for the setting to be effective. After we change the value, the paper and the mold collided, indicating that the value of 200 did not meet our requirements. When you are unable to determine the value, you can adjust it slowly and try a few more values to determine the value that is suitable for your paper. The support position parameter cannot be set or changed. It is just a numerical position for our reference, because we need to know the reference object when setting other parameters. The mold position below is the same. It is just a reference value and cannot be changed. The stop position of the same row is set with reference to the mold position. The current setting is 300 to 330, which means that when you press the stop button, the mold position must reach the range of 300 to 330 before the machine will stop running. Demonstration: when the stop position is set to 100 to 120, the mold is in the collection cage. If we open the collection cage at this time, it will hit the mold and cause damage. When set to 300 to 330, the mold is recycled. However, this glue rolling position is also inappropriate, so we continue to set it and change it to 350 to 370. After the machine stops, both glues do not touch the machine, making it easier for workers to clean. The feeding sensor means that the paper will run only when the support chain position is within the set range. The current setting is 100 to 300. But the carrier position is 300.9, so even if you hold down the jog button, the paper will not run. The purpose of setting the feeding sensor is to allow the paper to run at intervals. The paper cannot be output overlapping or too far apart. This is set according to the paper size. If the paper changes, the feeding sensor will also change. The following is the chain sensor. The corresponding sensor is the one before glue rolling, when the paper runs until the electrical eye are on. The supporting chain position is 224, and the initial angle of paper outage can be set to 224. When the paper is about to leave the electrical eye position, the supporting chain position is 319, and the end angle of paper outage can be set to 319. The chain sensor is currently set to 224,319, which represents the distance on the paper. The sensor senses that there is paper running here and there is no paper shortage, and the glue will drop when the glue is rolled. When no paper is detected at the set distance, the glue roller will be lifted to prevent glue from touching the machine. Now there is paper running, so the glue roller is downward. If there is no paper, the glue roller will lift up. The following two are the same, controlling the stations respectively. This page switches between dotting and inserting labels. The red button indicates that this is an inserted label, and the gray button indicates a dotting gone. If you have a label inserting machine, you need to set it up on this page. The first one is the label inserting angle, which means that when the label inserting machine runs within the set range, the label inserting machine runs and puts in the label paper, and the box must catch the label paper, otherwise it will fall off. The label insertion length indicates the beginning of label insertion, and the cutter delay indicates that the paper has been inserted into the box and can be cut. The manual screen is to test whether these parts of the machine are malfunctioning and whether they can continue to operate. Some buttons may have broken internal circuits and cannot be visually seen, which can be detected on the manual screen.